And we're live. Welcome, everybody. My name is Pasha of the Agency Operators Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Fatoush Fatin of Maximaze. How are you doing, Fatoush?
Very well. Thank you, Pasha. Thanks for having me.
Uh, I'm pleased to have you on. Thank you for joining. We've been chit-chatting a little while, talking a lot about content and Amazon listings and the importance of that. And I think it's just getting more important than ever to really have your content dialed in, especially talking about Rufus and Cosmo and how these bots are now just like scanning through everything that's on your listing, including reading your images, reading your infographics. Right? It's kind of crazy. So before we jump into that, Fatoush, I wanted to just ask you, share your story. Being focused on content on Amazon is a very niche service to offer. So it takes a certain type of path to get to that place and to be able to manage a team and run an agency specifically focused on that. So I would be so interested to hear kind of, what your story sounds like. Like, how did you end up as the founder of Maximaze?
Yeah, not the usual path. So I I am not a designer. I'm not an artist. I studied economics, so I came to this from a completely different background. I built a laundry and swimwear business over many years. Um, and then I got into the Amazon world during COVID, actually. So I came into e-commerce much later in my career, and then it was a sort of sideways transition into the creative side. And as with a lot of things in life, it was just a lot of serendipity, things that happen at a certain time. I was working with somebody who's very well known in the Amazon content space, and she was like, I think you can really do this. So I started as a private label seller, and I was doing my own listings, and people were saying, how come this is working really well? Because you do your own listings, and then it was just helping others to do their own. And I thought, well, actually, I'd love to do this as a business. And that's essentially how I got into it. It was almost by accident. Like I said, I'm not a designer. I can't draw, I can't paint, but I think I can visualize things in my head, and I think I do a reasonable job of kind of downloading what's in my head to somebody who can convert that into something visual. And I think the fact that I was running a business like from A to Z. We were creating the entire concept, doing the technical development, manufacturing, logistics. So I think when you've done all of that for as long as I have, being able to run an agency, making sure everything works, managing it, delegating it, it does come as second nature.
Yeah, makes sense. I think it's kind of refreshing to know that like we're focusing on content here and we don't have to worry about all these other facets of the business which are important, but we understand how they're connected with the content and we're keeping them in consideration when building it. So I think that's a very like kind of important angle that you guys have. And yeah, just being able to kind of chisel away at one specific thing and just really be hyper focused on it, I think it's such a refreshing thing because like in my company, we get bogged down a lot. Like we have all these different departments. I get bogged down because I have my finger on the pulse of all the different departments. So it's like there's so many things to be aware of, and we have to be very like detailed in our like management and tracking of all the different elements because the price affects the profit, which affects the fees and the logistics, and then the advertising and everything's conversion rate. And so the content is at the start of it all. Really, it's a kind of like the starting point.
Yeah. And I think, having said, I wasn't a designer, I wasn't this, I wasn't that. I did have a retail business. Part of our business was retail. And, when I first started building listings on Amazon, I was relating it back to that. I think a lot of people get kind of really caught up in, formulas and hype, but at the end of the day, we're selling a product, whether we're selling it in a physical store or in an online setting, the principles are the same. So if you can take what you applied to it when you were doing it in a bricks and mortar store, think of what works, why it works, and apply the same principles in an online setting, that's how you're going to make it work.
Okay. So I have a question, before we dive into the meat and potatoes of the conversation and talk about different facets of the listing optimization process. I want to ask a question about split testing. So this is something that we've been experimenting with over the years, and trying to find what is the most efficient way to split test, because so many times we're getting results back which are not really that very conclusive. This is most of the time what I'm hearing from the creative team is, we took the effort to do the split test and we're really seeing like 48, 49%, on one side. So it's like, is it worth it to even change anything, or is it making any difference? Any suggestions, or what do you think about split testing on Amazon?
I think that the two versions that you're testing need to be different enough. That's the first thing. So with very small differences, I think it's hard to know. I mean, as you say, we see that a lot as well, where the percentages are very similar. And also, now I know you can simultaneously run multiple tests. And I think personally, just doing it the old-fashioned way, test one thing at a time. Like if you're testing multiple different things at the same time, are you going to be 100% which element, somehow it's difficult to isolate it. I personally would prefer, if you're testing main images, do your main images, and then you want to test something else, then move on and test that afterwards. I mean, I don't know what you're doing. Are you running multiple at the same time, or?
Yeah, I agree with that philosophy. I think it does skew the data to have too many factors being tested. And it's the same thing like with advertising, like we're doing a launch and then we turn on all these different advertising types at the same time. I'm not even talking about like on Amazon. I'm talking about like if you're doing Google and Facebook and Amazon and, you have influencers talking about your product. When you're doing everything all at once, it becomes a mishmash. So even though you're growing, it's kind of hard to pinpoint really where it's coming from, because there's all these other residual data points that are not maybe easily tracked. Because, I'm talking about with marketing. With split testing, it's a little bit more clear, but still, I agree with you that it does skew the data quite a little bit. So also just like the most impactful thing to test is like, where the priority is. So I think like main image and title. Yeah. And then after that, split testing, A+ content. How effective is that? Is it worth the effort? If you have a team and resources to do that, yes. But if we have like a limited amount of time and a limited amount of resources, then we'll focus on those two things.
Yeah, I totally agree. Those are the primary things to focus on. And then once you've got that settled and you're happy that it's optimized, then you can start testing the other elements as well.
Awesome. So what do you see as the most impactful part of the listing optimization process? So if you had to, kind of break it down and say, if you do these things, these 3 things or these 5 things, then you can almost guarantee yourself better conversion.
Okay, so I think your listing images, so your main image, obviously you've got to optimize that, because you need to get people to come into your listing before you do anything else. But the secondary images are really, really important, especially now with Amazon experimenting with, you being able to scroll on the search results page without having to actually go into the listing. That's becoming even more important. So definitely your listing images need to be optimized, and they have to be mobile optimized, really important. just work out, know what it is that you need to show, what you need to communicate to shoppers, and make sure that your listing images are optimized, and don't have a ton of text because people don't read it. But absolutely, I would say your listing images being optimized, really, really important. Having a video as well, really, really important. People love moving images. You know, if you've got a moving image on the screen, people are going to watch it. And just if you've got a really strong, powerful video that's engaging and informing and entertaining, people are going to watch that. So I would definitely do those. You know, A+ content is really important as well. And a lot of people are just not utilizing it, which is complete waste.
Mm-hmm. So what about brand story and all these other kind of new rollouts?
Yeah, absolutely. You need brand story. And, you know, to be able to qualify for premium A+ content, which is really ideally what you should have, not basic, you need to have brand story applied to all of your ASINs. So definitely. And brand story is important for other reasons as well. You know, people want to know who they're buying the product from rather than some faceless seller. And so if they can relate to the brand, you know, tell them a little bit about who you are, why you're selling the product, what drives you, what's the brand philosophy. That's a really great way to engage with shoppers. So brand story, definitely worth doing. And it's so easy to do.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying, you know, if it's a small company, right? Like many small sellers are on Amazon, is just like a couple people. It's not like a big company, right? So they can feel comfortable to take like a group photo, share a little bit about the origin story, right? Something that's heartfelt. I think
Exactly.
that's super impactful. Like you see that a lot, like even on the back of like a box of crackers here in the US. You know,
Yeah.
some like, you know, some local cracker story or whatever. You know, my father was farming wheat since the 1800s, and you know, you give some connection. And I agree, it's just so hard these days, especially there's just all these brands on Amazon that just have like these strange kind of Chinese names. They don't really mean anything. So it's kind of a refreshing thing to just like connect with like a local company, not local because it could be in any state, but somebody that's like a domestic seller or, you know, a domestic brand.
Exactly, and that they're real humans. You know, it's not just some massive factory who are just like selling their product on Amazon. So just the relatability is really, really good.
Yeah, and I also see huge opportunity with storefronts.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any tips for that?
Yes. You know, keep it again overall, just like an overarching comment throughout your content on Amazon, have it cohesive and have it have your branding dialed down. So figure out what your brand identity is, what it looks like, and make sure it's consistent. So your listing images, brand story, A+ content, storefront, make sure that it all looks similar. So when people see it, they know that this is the same brand. With your storefront, again, you know, talk about the brand and then utilize like the different tabs. Let's say you know, let's say you're a stationery brand and you have journals and you have notepads and you have pens. You know, utilize the tabs so that it's easy and it's simple for people to see and to find the different products that you're selling. There's so much you can do, you know, with stores. You can put videos in there. Don't just like dump a load of images. Like earlier today or yesterday, I was looking at a storefront and I specifically clicked on the tab for one particular type of product. And the first thing that was at the top of the page on that product page was totally unrelated products. They'd said they're bestsellers and they put every single thing there. And that was just really frustrating and annoying. And So don't do that. You know, less is more, if that makes sense. Just don't confuse the shopper. Just stick to the point, and be focused. Storefronts are great because, you know, when you're in the main part of Amazon, like we're on your main listing, there's so much competition for your shopper's attention because, you know, there's all the ads that pop up to distract people. Whereas in your storefront, it's like you're in a safe space. You don't have all those ads popping up. So if you can get people to your storefront, you have got their full and undivided attention. And so also for that reason, it's really, really worth investing in having a good storefront.
Yeah, especially to have that kind of homepage be the hub where people can just kind of discover about your product line and all the different things that you really offer without actually bombarding them with the offers. That's what I see a lot is people put like a video at the top or just like a banner or something. And then all of a sudden it's like just like this bunch of their listings that you can click on. Like nobody's going to really understand where to find anything. It's not no. So homepage, redirect people to the other tabs, but just use it as an opportunity for marketing. And I agree. I mean, that last point that you made is probably like the most important part of this all, which is it's all your real estate, which is like there's no other place on the platform that exists that way, right? That people can just come on and there's no other kinds of ad placements trying to take your attention away that they're selling. Like it's your store, it's your content, that's it. So make it, you know, use that opportunity as best as you can. It's a very good point.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing is, you know, with the follow, there's the follow button, and that's a great way to connect with your shoppers. So, you know, you can engage with those shoppers now. Obviously, you can't email them. It's limited how you can communicate with them. But when you have followers, like if you've got a new product launch, you still have a way of reaching out to them. So it's a great way to build up your brand following. And we do stuff like that just to kind of really make it clear to people that there's that follow button and just say follow us for updates, etc. So that's another plus.
Yeah, I know that follow button is connected with Amazon posts. Is that something that you guys work with?
Yeah, posts are great as well. They're a great way of engaging with people.
Yeah, so we did it for a long time. We shut it down a little while ago. It's really dependent. We see the results for posts to be parallel to the size of the account. So if there's already a lot of volume happening for that brand, naturally there's going to be more posts being shown on other competitor pages. So that's what's great. It's like essentially free content that you can post on other people's pages, and they're giving you some metrics for it. So we see varying results. But do you have any tips for optimizing the post system to really get as much exposure as possible? Is it just to create as much content as you can?
Yeah, just keep pushing it out.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some AI tools that can help out with just generating relevant images, but you don't want it to look too AI, right? Because there needs to be like your product photoshopped into the image, right? You can't just like pictures of sunshine and rainbows and just like write some caption or something.
Yeah, and you know, for us, it's mostly real life photography as well, rather than just photoshopping your product into a background. And you know, kind of overall, the quality of your visuals is really, really important.
Yeah. So that was kind of bringing me to my next point, like you were mentioning earlier about the importance of video and just moving images. So in some cases, people don't have any photo shoot done or any kind of video shoot done. And so I'm sure they come to you and they say, hey, I have this product. I don't even have, you know, like a hero shot of this. So you guys are probably like, all right, maybe 3D render, or let's get a photo shoot done. But, you know, if there's no budget for a fancy photo shoot, because they can go, you know, to $100,000 up until, right? Like if you really want to get fancy, or it could be simple if you know, like a small just like a single photographer freelancer that you can work with. But how do you guys deal with that, like lack of original assets?
So we do photography and videography, and actually it's not as expensive as people think it is. It is really, really important to have good quality images of your product. I think it's not worth just kind of trying to skimp on that, because ultimately your listing is your shop, it's your business, and it's an investment. And that's what I say to people: it's not an expenditure, it's an investment, because this is your business. Think about how many $1,000s you're going to spend on PPC, all the fees that you pay to Amazon, all these other costs that you have. So a couple of $1,000s to invest in building your listing in the grand scheme of things isn't that much money. And good quality content doesn't cost the earth. You can still get it done for very, very reasonable cost. You need at least some decent still images of the product, even if you're going to go really, really low budget and you're going to Photoshop them into a background. You still need a good quality, either a lightbox shot of the product or a 3D render, and just good quality graphics. And you need that differentiation. That's what's going to make you stand out from the competition.
So what kind of differentiation have you seen really works well? Like, is there a certain kind of pattern that you're observing, or every brand is different?
Every brand is different. Things that you really need to just bear kind of at the front of your mind is whatever graphics, whatever overall look you're creating needs to fit with your product. So just always stay relevant. Like if you're selling a baby product, you don't want like the sort of graphics that you would use for a computer or a tech product of some sort. Just stay true to the product that you're selling, and just have a good graphic designer. Just make sure that they can create something that is good quality, and just communicate features and the benefits of the product really clearly.
Makes sense. Okay. Another thing I was curious about, how you guys deal with parent-child variation families. So that's a really important one. I see that as an opportunity that is not as often enough talked about, because it's so key to advertising and organic sales. So in some cases, it's not wise to variate, and in some cases, it is very wise to variate. Even things that you wouldn't think to do it for, you should do it. So I always lean more towards, yes, let's do it, just because we're sending traffic to one place instead of to 5 different places. But you don't want to go like too broad and just like it doesn't make sense. Like if you try to vary things which don't make sense together, Amazon will actually reverse it. So we don't want to push it too far. It has to make sense. But like, what in your experience, like, how do you guys deal with that?
So we only deal with it insofar as the content is concerned. So the client, when they come to us, they have their variation families set up. They make those decisions. But we definitely highlight that in the content. So particularly in the A+ content, usually in the listing images as well, we will have an image where, let's say you're selling water bottles that come in 5 different colors. We'll say, we'll talk about the product features, benefits, etc. Then we'll have an image that says a choice of 5 great colors. And then, then within the A+ content, particularly where you're using premium A+ content, either hotspots or carousel slides gives you so much space. Carousel slides are brilliant because you can showcase different colors, different sizes, whatever, all those different variations. It's all that extra space, which is great. So have I answered your question? I'm not sure if I've kind of
definitely that makes sense. Also, Fatoush, I wanted to ask, is there any kind of like success or fail story that you love to share? Those are always super fun, and we all have them as entrepreneurs. There's all there. Our road is sprinkled with probably for hopefully not for everybody, but for me at least, tons of failures and some amazing successes that we can celebrate at the end of it from all our learnings. So, any story that comes to mind that you'd like to share?
Oh my goodness, I've been running businesses for so many years. There are plenty of all of those things happening. I guess failure, way back when we had retail stores in London. So our business was a combination of wholesale and retail, and rentals in London went through the roof, and physical stores were no longer viable, and we had to come out of retail. So the business as a whole continued, but that part of it wasn't viable. So I guess that goes into the fail box. Successes, yes. We worked with so many different companies, but like we were the only cup-sized swimwear brand in Net-a-Porter, which for me was like a great, yes, that was a big moment, because women will know, maybe men not so much, but Net-a-Porter were and are still the biggest kind of designer label online website. It's a huge company, huge brands, and our own branded swimwear was the only swimwear for women that they had was cup-sized, which was amazing. So that was a big win. And then in my Maximaze life, we get a lot of wins where we create content and clients upload it and their sales go up, they improve. Recently we had a client where we just optimized their A+ content from basic to premium, and we redesigned it. And within 2 weeks, they'd had an 18% increase in sales just with that being upgraded.
Wow.
Yeah, so those are the things that are great. And when you know this, when you run an agency, your client's success is what kind of makes you tick, makes you get out of bed every day. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, their success is our success. So that's just that kind of chain that we exist on. And to know with actual numbers and data that what we're doing is working, it's amazing, right? It's like that's where it all pays off, where you see, all right, there's a clear conversion rate increase when we're taking this content and uploading it. And I think that's very satisfying.
Definitely.
Being an entrepreneur in this period, you can probably relate. There's a lot of new people coming into the space. In the service industry, there's a lot of people claiming to be professional. In the e-commerce space, there's a lot of brands coming in, just private labeling, and those kind of systems are already like kind of don't work as well. There really needs to be some key differentiators, on both sides, on the e-commerce side and on the service provider side. So it's really just up to us as entrepreneurs to just keep staying ahead of the curve, really educating ourselves on what Amazon is throwing at us, what e-commerce is throwing at us, because people are shopping on and their habits are changing on all the different platforms. So it's just a matter of staying on top of everything.
Yeah, for sure. It changes so fast.
Yep. So yeah, that's all my questions on the content side. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
anything else you wanted to share?
No, I think originally we were going to talk about the premium A+ content and why, you know, everybody should use it. But I think we went off kind of in a roundabout and just chatted about various things in a general sense, which is all good. Yeah.
Okay. If there's any kind of details that you wanted to go on and share about Premium A+, please.
People come to me for, you know, ask about Premium A+ content, and a lot of the podcasts I've done have been kind of focused on Premium A+ content, and we work on it all the time. So just for anyone who's not using it, or who maybe isn't that familiar with all the new features, just what I would say is absolutely everybody should be using it, because there are so many advanced features with it. And A+ content is free. Everybody knows that, but it's worth reminding everyone it's free, and it's just tons of extra space on your listing to highlight and showcase your products. So you should be using it. You know, there are many features of premium that are an improvement on basic. One of them is you can have a video in it, and again, the whole idea about moving images, it's great to have that. People will stay on your listing. More space, you know, the module sizes are much bigger. It looks much bigger on the page. It's more attractive, more engaging. And things like carousels, which again are dynamic. You know, people love to click and see things moving. So you can click on the carousels, look at more images, you can scroll through, that it's just the scrollability. And also it gives you extra space to talk about, like we were saying, where you have variations. You can have a different slide for each variation or for each family. So all those features and hotspots you can hover over. There are video modules where you can put a video carousel. So if you've got lots of UGC, you can put that in your Premium A+ content. You know, it's just so much more interactive. So if anybody's thinking about, should I do it, should I not do it, that it's a no-brainer. You should do it.
Awesome. And what about ad creative? That was actually one other thing I was thinking about earlier. Something we do a lot, and we're kind of testing out a couple different things when it comes to ad creative. Anything you guys do on that side? Do you get any requests for that? Because sometimes it's not enough to just use the video on the listing. You know, you want to make something that's like really tailored to a particular search.
Yeah, and also, you know, your main video on your listing can be longer, but with the ads, like, you need to be within the first couple of seconds. You need to grab people's attention. So, you know, from when we shoot a video, we will take sections of that, and basically tailor it for ads, because, you know, you shoot a lot of content. You can pick the relevant sections of that are focusing on, like, that are totally geared towards that particular product or the message that you're trying to get across. So yeah, absolutely, we do work on that as well.
Awesome. We actually had a comment here because we're actually streaming this live. Somebody's asking about Amazon PPC related. They're asking what happens if you already have a first page or top of search for an exact keyword, if you're ranking organically well. And I guess I can answer that. I think what I would do if we're already ranking very well for a keyword organically and we're still advertising it with PPC is scale back the PPC and see what happens, right? If you maintain that organic position, you might not have to really advertise on that keyword at all. Why pay for clicks that you're already getting? Some people think that showing up organically and sponsor at the top of the page makes sense because you're taking up more real estate, but in my opinion, you're just wasting money. So yeah, hope that answers your question, sir. Fatoush, it was a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you for sharing your nuggets of wisdom here and all these insights, and just sharing, you know, your story here about years of entrepreneurship and kind of how it led you to being a specialist when it comes to content. I love everything that you said. So yeah, thank you for your time and sharing.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.